Hey, gorgeous. Welcome to the Ready to Bloom podcast, which features interviews with inspiring women entrepreneurs from around the world. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, without further ado, I'll hand you over to your host, Holly Wharton.
Hello and welcome to the Ready to Bloom podcast, episode 93. This is your host, Holly Wharton. I'm here with today's special guest, Siobhan Costello from Great Business Results. Siobhan is the founder of Great Business Results, and she helps women to build their businesses through confident networking. Siobhan now runs 7 successful network groups for business women, and she's passionate about showing other women how they can build their businesses by networking confidently and with authenticity, and in a way that means that they can remain true to themselves. Welcome, Siobhan.
Hi, Holly. Thanks very much for having me.
I'm so excited to talk with you today.
Well, I hope I live up to that.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and your business journey and how you got into this whole networking thing?
Yeah, sure. I used to be a nurse and then a civil servant, and that sort of squashes all of my past life into 2 sentences. And I left the civil service to create a business as a hypnotherapist and NLP practitioner. And I hated networking. I went networking, I hadn't got a clue what on earth I was doing, and really found it very, very difficult to build a business. I did turn the business around through packaging my services the right way, but at the same time, I found a network group, which turned out to be Women in Business Network, which is the franchise that I run. But what I found was that actually networking amongst women in the right way helped me to position my business in such a way that I could grow it. So I decided to launch Women in Business Network in the East Anglia area in the UK, and it just filled a need. And what I found was that women wanted to network in women-only groups. And that was because of the supportive element. A lot of them networked with men as well, but it was simply that together they felt empowered and supported and really helped each other to grow their businesses. And pretty soon I found I was actually giving lots of business advice to other therapists and coaches who came to me saying, I want to come along to your group, but actually I want to find out whether, how did you turn your business around? Will the networking help me in that way? So that's why I created Great Business Results, because I wanted to create a structure in which I could help other therapists and coaches to really network with a confidence and really to get a return on the money that they were investing, whether that was with a membership or with informal networking groups.
Excellent. And so what are the biggest challenges that you've seen people have to overcome with networking?
Confidence. Straight away, I'd come straight in with confidence. Some women don't actually say, no, I don't want to come along. Once they feel they have to do a 60-second pitch or whatever you want to call it, an elevator pitch, that really puts them off. And what I do is encourage them to come along just as a visitor, just to get a feel for it. Because actually what happens the minute they walk through the door is that everybody just supports, they're friendly, they find it's actually fun, and nobody is sussing out who's good at this pitch thing and who isn't. And really, I think if you can get in there, it sort of stretches you a bit, doesn't it? To put yourself a little bit outside your comfort zone. So I'd say confidence is the key thing for people, actually.
Excellent. And what were some things that you personally had to overcome when you started, going out networking and building your business through networking?
Holly, I hadn't got a clue what I was doing. So for a start, I didn't know how to follow up with people. I couldn't say what my niche was. I would say I'm a hypnotherapist and I do a whole string of things. And I was too afraid to say one thing because what would happen if I lost business? In actual fact, I didn't get any business because people couldn't see what I stood for. So that was the first key thing. I also felt hampered or held back by competition rather than actually seeing the collaborative nature that, other people in similar areas can add to your business, how they can enhance your brand. And that was a real turning point. That was a real eye opener for me. And I'd say the third thing was probably I didn't know how to follow up with people. So I'd go in and I'd network for an hour I come away and think, well, what do I do next? What's the story? Why am I not getting business? But in actual fact, I wasn't following up with people after the event.
And so in what kinds of ways do you recommend that people that go to networking follow up with others?
Well, the simplest way is simply to email people after you've come away from the event to say, really nice to meet you, enjoyed the chat, thank you for whatever help they might have given you. Connect with them on social media, that would be LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest if they're there, and also to arrange one-to-ones. And that's a particular meeting, it's a focus meeting where you both tell each other about your business in more detail and help each other to get referrals for each other, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. So by me understanding more about what you do, Holly, then you're in my mind when I'm talking to somebody who actually might be your ideal client. And equally, I've had an opportunity to tell you about me and my ideal client as well.
I think that's really important to point out because you hear about what people are doing from their 60-second thing. You've got their business card. Maybe you went home and you checked out their website, but you really don't get a feel for someone's business until you've sat down with them for a while and talked with them about what it is they do and who it is that they work with.
Yeah, and it's even more than that. You really get a sense of who they are, their personality, their values. And lots of great things come out of one-to-ones. So essentially you start off thinking, well, okay, I want to get to know this business a bit more. But then as you get to know the person and what they stand for, you can see whether you can become referral partners. Mm-hmm. So you might pass referrals back and forth to each other. You might go on to collaborate together, to run workshops together. You might think there are synergies there that you never even saw. Mm-hmm. So it is so worthwhile to spend a little bit of time after an event, put 2 or 3 appointments into your diary to follow up with people, to have these one-to-ones. They're an essential part of any, whether that's informal or formal networking that you do.
And I think that's such a great reminder because I remember when I first started networking, I know the groups that I went to really encouraged one-to-ones, and so I really got into it and I was doing it. I loved it because I really got to know people. And then I kind of quit networking for a while because my business changed, and I came back to it recently this year, and I haven't yet invested the time to get together with people to do one-to-ones, and I feel like that's something that's really missing from my networking experience.
Yeah, it just gives you more of an opportunity to help people. And actually, you're not going in to sell to them. You're just letting them get to know you a bit more. And by doing that, they begin to know, like, and trust you, basically. Mm-hmm. And once they get to know, like, and trust you, they're more open to making referrals to you as well.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So, Siobhan, what would you say are your top tips on how to get results from business networking? I imagine that following up with people afterwards is one of the ones. Yeah.
Well, I like to start by saying you really need to find out the right network group for you. So there can be a scattergun approach. Oh, I've got a business. That's it. I'm going networking anywhere I can. But it can be a waste of your time and money. So it's worthwhile spending some time selecting the right network group for you. So if you know your target market are corporate women, then you need to just look around for the right sorts of groups. Now, do have a balanced approach to this because it's not necessarily who's in the room, it's who in the room knows the people who are in your target market. So there is a getting a feel for this as well. So you also want to think about having a blend of formal and informal groups. If you go to an informal group where you pay £5 for your coffee, that's fine, except that you may find that you're sitting with the same person all the time. There isn't that fluidity of movement in the room, so you're not getting to talk to more people. And neither do you know how many people are coming along at any one time. So the structured events do give you more of a sense of more of a concrete sense of who's going to be there and how you can build your business. Another great tip is to ask the organizer for the list of attendees before you go. So you can just have a little look around their website, figure out if they're the key people you want to talk to. Maybe from the list, choose 3 people. And when you go along to the meeting, say to the organizer, would you mind introducing me to these 3 people? These are the 3 people I want to meet today.
Excellent.
So, and I think when you're in there, the most important thing to remember is that it's all about being helpful. People get really turned off when you are when anybody is pushy. So approach it as being, this is my opportunity to help everybody I possibly can, whether that's giving them a link to an article or suggesting a book or a helpful technique, especially if it's technology. Gosh, everybody wants help on technology, anything like that. And I think that's a really crucial tip for when you're at the meeting itself.
That's great. Now, do you find that the people that you help with networking, do they tend more to err on the side of pushiness or on the side of retreating into a corner and not perhaps expressing what it is that they do for fear of being pushy?
Sorry, Holly, was that the people that I help?
Yeah, the people that you help.
Yeah, it's more that they lack confidence and they are very anxious about appearing pushy, even though they aren't, but they're so anxious about, if I mention my business, or, if I say, well, I can help you with that, or how do you say I can help you with that? So they're looking for strategies on how to actually move on to the next step of creating that relationship where people might become a paying client. And the answer to that is that I think it's unwise to go in with the expectation that you will get a client or a customer from that particular networking event if you're brand new to the networking event. If you go to that meeting regularly and people are getting to know you and recommend you, then that's different. You may meet somebody there who's brand new who may say, oh gosh, Holly, I've heard about you. I'd like to talk a bit more about what you do and how you can help me. That's the ideal, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And how many kind of visits to the same group do you find that it takes before people start getting results from networking?
It's really hard to say if they are it is hard to say, because if they need to put in their strategy in place. They need to know what it is they're after. What is their networking goal? So one of the things I like to do is to find out what people's networking goal is and to encourage them to ask for it. If you're looking for a VIP client, but you're sort of pitching at low-hanging fruit all the time because you think that's what the group offer you, then I think that's not helpful for you to ever meet your goal, because you won't. You'll always only be pitching at what you think is available in the room. But actually it is about who the people know beyond that. And I think that's really important. And if people are following up, I see in my groups that when people start to actively have their one-to-ones, so they're saying every month they have 2 or 3 one-to-ones with people, then things start to happen for them because other members get to know what they are doing, all of the services that they offer. It's just not possible in the short space of time for a network meeting to get to tell people exactly what you do. So the people that I see being really successful are those who are really embracing all aspects of it. They've got space in their diary, they follow up, and they're being helpful. They're following on social media. Actually, one of the simple ways of helping people is to share their stuff on social media.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent tip, and that's something that a lot of people probably don't think of.
Yeah, and I'm not a hugely adept at technology, but there are easy ways, aren't there, on Hootsuite to create lists. So you can easily follow people who are in your network and promote their things on Twitter or Facebook, So, and that really makes people feel good, that you shared their course or their workshop.
Yeah. I mean, you could even create a Twitter list of all of the people in your networking group and just kind of go in there and check every day or every couple of days and just retweet and comment and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it just makes the world of difference. And it gets that conversation going, doesn't it, when you're outside the meeting? So they're remembering you, especially if your meeting is only once a month or that particular network group you go to is only happening once a month. These sorts of things mean that you're staying in people's minds and you're becoming, in their mind, a good networker. So I know that's a label, but it's quite a nice label because people start to come to you knowing that you're connecting others and you're the sort of person who's helping them to promote their business, So And that's what it's all about, really.
And what do you recommend as far as frequency and how many different groups to go to? Because I know there are some people that I see at every single group, and I think, how do you ever get any work done? Do you not have clients? And then there's some people that you kind of see them like roll around once a year or twice a year. So what's the frequency that you recommend?
Well, obviously, if you're a member of a group, then you have to stick to the criteria that is set by the group. My groups are once a month, and I would say that's, if you're going to a group, you've got to go at least once a month to become remembered, really. In terms of getting out there, I would say it's really important to be doing 1 or 2 network groups a week. And I know that sounds labor intensive, possibly, but it's not, because it's actually brings you business in an easier way. People start to call you, and those people who are out networking furiously like that, I mean, I admire them. They must be delegating an awful lot of their work out to virtual PAs and things like that. But really, I think if you can be out once or twice a week networking at a particular meeting, then that's very, very useful to you.
That's actually really good kind of guideline, because that's definitely more than I've been doing.
Yeah, I mean, it does depend. And you don't want this does take time out of your business, and that's why it's really important to decide which groups work for you. So there will be some groups that you go to and you get a lovely vibe when you go in and you think, oh, I love this group, and you go to it time and time again and you're friends with people. But actually, is it actually bringing you any leads or referrals over a period of time? And if it's not, then question why you're there. If you're there just for support and it's nice and you've got friends and you're accepting of that, then that's fine. But if it's not actually, if you actually wanted business from it, then it's really important to evaluate the amount of referrals or leads or contacts that you feel you're getting from the particular group. So that's why you kind of have to have a business nose about it and say, yeah, I know this particular one is great. It's a nice lunch, but you've got to be doing business at the end of it.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all in business to grow, and networking is about growing your business.
Definitely. So how often would you recommend reevaluating whether you need to approach a certain group in a different way or just completely let go of the group?
Well, I suppose I would be evaluating every quarter, I'd say. If I had gone to a meeting 4 times and I mean consistently, then I would probably be evaluating it at that point. Because really, after 4 times, maybe they're not really your target market. Maybe there's you've got to watch out for things like cliques and groups, things like that as well. There may be somewhere else that's better. Your time is better spent. So I suppose I kind of have a 4 meeting cutoff point in my mind.
Okay, that's really useful. So what are the kind of different criteria that people can use to determine whether a group is right for them or not? So when they visit a group for the first time, you usually get a gut feeling, either it feels right or it doesn't. But beyond that gut feeling, how can people help decide whether a group is right for them or not?
Yeah, there are a couple of things that I think make a group a particularly good group. So there is something about the organization of it. If you're getting emails beforehand, if you can get an attendance list, then that means you're able to do your preparation before you go. And obviously that helps your time management as well. You can focus when you go in. I think it's really important that the organizer is greeting you and is asking you who you want to meet. That also means that you are not wasting your time. You're getting focused on it. There's also the issue about, and these may sound woolly, and I hope they're not, because they're actually crucial, but you've got to know you're welcomed, that people are thinking about you and moving you around the room, and that you're not standing there on your own, or that you're not finding yourself on the edge of a clique of people who aren't inviting you to talk to them. So they would be the sort of psychological things. I don't know a better word to put on that one. In terms of other aspects of other criteria that I use, how are people sharing business around the group? Do I hear that there's business being exchanged? And So you can see that clearly at a structured meeting, because at the end of every meeting, there'll be a section where people will stand up and they'll give testimonials or referrals. And that is a real good indicator as to whether business is being done around the table. And the other indicator is the business just between the members, social media from somebody, or, website design, or are other people saying, actually, I'm referring you to another client of mine. Mm-hmm. So the business is moving outside the room.
Yeah.
So third-party referrals. When that sort of thing is happening, then to me, it demonstrates that everybody around the room is thinking much more widely about how they can support people to grow their business. Mm-hmm. With informal groups, it's much harder to see that. You've got to really ask key questions about how much business people are getting from the meeting. Mm. With informal groups, I guess the criteria I use is how regularly am I seeing people there? Is there a consistent number of people going? Or do I find myself there with just 3 or 4 people sometimes? That's not good use of my time. Mm-hmm. So does that help, Holly?
Yeah, that definitely helps. Now, another thing I wanted to ask you about is something very important that you said earlier, which was that it's important to know what your networking goal is. Whether it's you want to get speaking engagements or you want to get, VIP clients. What are some of the examples of networking goals? Just to give people an idea, because I think a lot of people do go into networking without a specific goal.
Yeah, absolutely. They haven't got a clue. And I was one of those, Holly. So I'm not being derogatory to anybody, because for a long time I didn't have a clue. So, but now you need to think in terms of, a lot of people start by saying, oh, I've paid a membership fee and I want that membership fee back. And I understand that, but sometimes it's not about getting the money back. Sometimes it's about the support that the group can give you. So there are the goals, I believe, break down into, is it financial reward that you want? So is it just the membership fee? In which case, how many clients do you need to get? How many customers do you need to get that membership fee back? Is it that actually you have in your marketing funnel high-end products that might cost several £1,000s? So is it that you want to sell one of them during the year? Mm-hmm. If that's the case, you've got to ask for that one thing. Yeah, you've got to put that out there to the group. An example of this, Holly, just out of the blue, was that I was looking for we were setting up an event in Cambridgeshire, and we were looking for somebody to sponsor the event, and that sponsorship was going to be somewhere in the region of 5,000 to 6,000. And I just put it out there at one of my meetings and said, who do you know who might have £5,000 or £6,000 and want to sponsor an event? And one lady came back with 3 really, really high caliber contacts for us.
Excellent.
And out of the blue, I wouldn't have sat there and said, oh, she'll have those contacts. It just, it was completely out of the blue. So you've got to put it out there. If you're looking for somebody who is going to pay you 5,000, then go for it. Work out what it is that client looks like. What would they say? And how will the people around the table recognize that person? So that's the other goal that I would suggest people think about, is if it's not just the membership fee, if it's a higher amount you're after, then how does that shape up in terms of the sort of customer you want to get to pay that amount?
Definitely. And also what you said earlier is not to make assumptions about who knows who in the room, because you don't know who people know.
Just don't know. And when it comes out of the blue, it's like so startling. It's fantastic, Also, like, I know I've just concentrated a bit on money and getting money back, and that's not always how people view things. Sometimes goal that you might want to set is around support. So many of us work from home and we don't have a team around us. So it can be that you actually say, this is a really good meeting because I come out of my house, my cave,
yes.
Once a week, once a month, and I'm surrounded by people who are supportive, and I feel energized and empowered, and I get ideas, and that's what I want. And if that's your goal, then make sure that's your goal and embrace it when you come in, on fire on all cylinders in terms of grasping that support and those ideas. The other goal that people might like to set, and I see this a lot with the women's groups, is confidence building. So they are very anxious to begin with. And then by the end of the year, it's just fabulous to see them sort of sailing and soaring, So, and I encourage people to say, is your goal about building your confidence? If it is, then put yourself forward as soon as you can for a presentation about your business. So most meetings will do some sort of presentation. Put yourself forward to be one of the committee, maybe, the meter and greeter at the door.
Yeah.
Or to be the person who, liaises with the venue around lunches or teas and coffees, so that you become somebody who gets extra profile, and that in itself boosts your confidence.
Excellent tips. Thank you. So, Siobhan, I was going to ask you, do you have any women business mentors? Are there any women in business who inspire you?
Well, I do. I mean, my belief is that everybody should have a business coach. Yes. And I have. My business coach is Catherine Walken, and I'm absolutely proud as Punch to be part of her coaching group, and would highly recommend her. And so why do I? Because she keeps me on track. I mean, I can go after bright, shiny objects quite a bit, and I'm a real doer. I can give me an idea and I'll go with it and I'll produce the goods, but I can be impatient to make it happen. So for me, a mentor is somebody who keeps me focused and who gives me ideas and who challenges me. Is this really the direction you said you were going to take? So there you go. That's my recommendation.
Excellent. Thank you. Catherine seems to be really good about keeping people away from bright, shiny objects. I've heard that comment so many times in relation to her.
Yeah, she is. Maybe there's just so many of us who go off and do it. That's the problem.
Maybe she attracts those kinds of clients.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
So, Siobhan, how can other women in business benefit from working with you? Do you do any kind of coaching or helping in relation to networking?
Yeah, I do. So I have an online home study program, which is called Confident Networking Home Study Program. That's on my website at the moment. And I also run VIP days with clients. I work on a one-to-one basis to really help them hone their networking strategy. So that might be looking at their niche, because there's no point in trying to go to a network meeting when you don't really know who your target market are. And I help them to package their services so that they actually don't go in with a list. They go in and say, I am X person and I do X thing, and they get known as the go-to expert for that. Excellent. And I also run a one-to-one VIP coaching program as well. And I guess if anybody, I have clarity sessions, Holly, that enable me to really find out whether I can help somebody, because there's no point in me getting into coaching arrangement with somebody unless I know that I can help them. That would not be a good thing if I did that. So the clarity session helps them to get to know what I do, and hopefully gets them clear on some aspect of their business, so that we can all sort of make sure that we're the right fit for each other.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. So, Siobhan, where can people find you online and check you out?
Yeah, my website is www.greatbusinessresults.co.uk, and if anybody would like to email me, then that would be great. It's info@greatbusinessresults.co.uk. Great.
And where do you hang out on social media?
Oh, I'm on Twitter at SMT Costello. And I'm on Facebook as well. I do have a Great Business Results business page, and if you look for me under Siobhan Costello, you'll find me there as well on Facebook.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, I've really enjoyed it, Holly. Thanks a million.
Thank you so much for your fantastic tips. And thank you for listening. And remember to visit readytobloom.com/93 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Ready to Bloom podcast with your host, Holly Wharton. You can find more information about today's guests, including links for topics that were discussed at readytobloom.com. That's ready, 2, bloom.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to head over to iTunes and leave us a quick review of this podcast. Thank you so much.